You see top 10 lists everywhere, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about them? What's the actual difference between number 1 and number 2, or number 2 and number 7? Well, today, we're going to decode the secret language of data by exploring the 4 scales of measurement. This is the hidden framework that shapes, well, everything, from massive market research studies to the movie ratings you scroll through on a Friday night.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a real-world ranking puzzle that you've definitely seen before. Then, we'll start climbing what I like to call the measurement ladder, moving from the absolute simplest kind of data to the most powerful. And finally, we'll see why getting this stuff right is the difference between finding a genuine insight and just having a bunch of meaningless numbers. So let's get into it.
All right, first up, let's tackle this ranking puzzle, which gets to the heart of this idea that, not all numbers are created equal.
Okay, so take a look at this list. It's the world's most admired companies. You've got Apple sitting pretty at number 1, GE at number 2, and a bunch of other huge names down the line. On the surface, it looks like a simple, straightforward ranking. But hiding just beneath the surface is a really important question.
And here is that puzzle. Is the gap in admiration between Apple and GE the exact same size as the gap between, say, GE and Microsoft? This list tells us the order for sure, but it tells us absolutely nothing about the distance between those ranks. And that little bit of ambiguity is exactly what we are here to clear up.
So, to solve this puzzle, we have to start thinking like a researcher. We're going to climb this measurement ladder, and I promise you, with each step we take up, we're going to get more information and a whole lot more analytical power.
So what even is measurement when you boil it down? Well, at its core, it's just about assigning numbers to things based on a set of rules. It could be your height, your shoe size, or even how much you love a brand of coffee. It all starts with this simple idea.
And what's so cool is that all measurement scales, all of them, are built from just these 4 simple characteristics. First, you have description. That's just a unique label. Then you add order, so now we know the relative position. After that comes distance. Now we know the exact difference between points. And finally, origin, which means having a true, meaningful zero. Every scale we're about to look at just adds one more of these building blocks.
So let's start climbing. We're on the first 2 rungs of our ladder, the nominal and ordinal scales.
First up, we've got the nominal scale. This is the most basic level you can get. Here, numbers are literally just labels. Think about the number on a football player's jersey or your social security number. Its only job is to give something a unique tag. That's it, nothing more.
See? Look at the numbers on these runners' bibs. They are purely nominal. The runner with 9.1 isn't somehow better than the runner with 8.2 just because their number is higher. It's just a tag to tell them apart. That is all a nominal scale does.
Okay, moving up a rung, we get to the ordinal scale. This takes the labels from the nominal scale and adds one crucial property: order. Now we're in the world of rankings, of preferences, of first, second, and third place.
Let's go back to our runners. So now we see their finishing order: first, second, third. We know their relative position, which is great, but we still don't know the magnitude of the difference. Did the winner beat second place by half a second, or was it a whole minute? An ordinal scale just can't tell us. And this is exactly the problem we had with that most admired companies list. We know the order, but not the distance. All right, time to climb a little higher. These next 2 scales, interval and ratio, are where we start to get some real analytical firepower, because we're finally adding precision. The interval scale is a huge step up because it finally adds the concept of distance. Now, the difference between any 2 points on the scale is meaningful, and, more importantly, it's consistent. A classic example is temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit.
So let's imagine these numbers are performance ratings on a scale of 0 to 10. With an interval scale, the jump from an 8.2 to a 9.1 is exactly the same as the jump from a 9.1 to a 10.0. The intervals are equal. But, and this is a big but, the 0 point is arbitrary. A 0 rating here doesn't mean a complete absence of performance, it's just another point on the scale we created.
And that brings us to the very top of the ladder, the ratio scale. This one has everything: description, order, distance, plus that final super important feature, a true absolute 0 point. This is what we call the origin.
Okay, now let's look at their finishing times in seconds. This is a ratio scale. And why is that? Because 0 seconds means a true absence of time. And having that true 0, well, it's a total game changer.
It means we can make real ratio comparisons. We can say without a doubt that a runner who finished in 20 seconds took twice as long as someone who finished in 10. This is the most powerful, most informative kind of data you can possibly get. So, we've climbed the ladder, we've seen all 4 scales, but why does any of this really matter? Well, it matters because understanding the difference between a simple label and a true zero is the key to turning raw data into truly smart decisions.
This table right here, this is what pulls it all together. You can see so clearly how each scale builds on the last one. And, most importantly, you see what that means for your analysis. For example, you can't calculate a meaningful average of jersey numbers. That's nominal data. It would be nonsense. But you absolutely can for finishing times. That's ratio data. The scale you choose literally dictates the math you're allowed to do.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. Asking someone to rank brands gives you ordinal data. You'll know their preference order, which is useful, but asking how much they spent on each brand, that gives you ratio data. Now you know not just what they prefer, but the intensity of that preference, measured in actual dollars. The insight you get is just so much deeper. And researchers use these fundamental scales to build all sorts of clever tools. One common type of tool involves asking people to make direct comparisons, forcing them to choose one thing over another to really get at their true preferences.
For instance, a super simple question like, which of these 2 shampoos do you prefer? That's a classic way to get ordinal data. It's a research technique built directly on the principles of that ordinal scale we were just talking about.
So, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. The scale you choose to measure something with, it isn't just a minor detail. It is, without a doubt, the single most important decision you make. It determines what you can learn from your data and what conclusions you can actually, legitimately draw from it. Everything else is built on this foundation.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The next time you see a ranking, a 5-star rating, or a customer survey, just ask yourself, what scale are they really using? Is it just a simple ordered list, or does it have real, meaningful distance between the points? Because understanding these scales doesn't just make you better at data, it makes you a much smarter, much more critical consumer of information in your everyday life.